We all know the story of Krishna, how after the fall of Dwarka, he left his human body. But have you ever stopped and thought about something else? What happened to Radha, the one who was closest to his heart? How did she leave this world? What was her final wish? And what did she ask from Krishna that people still talk about today? This is not just a story. This is a love that goes beyond time, beyond life, beyond death. A bond not of body, but of souls. And today, you are going to hear a truth that may surprise you. So listen carefully, because this story is not ordinary. People often think this story begins in Barsana, in the old streets filled with memories, with the sound of a flute and echoes of laughter. But the truth is, this story does not begin there. It begins somewhere much quieter, much deeper, in the final moments of a life. In a lonely place near Vrindavan, there lived an old woman. Her body had become weak, her face covered with age, but her heart had not changed, because inside her the same love was still alive. That woman was Radha. She was no longer young. Time had changed her body, but her heart still beat for only one name, Krishna. Even now, if someone played a flute, a soft smile would appear on her face, as if nothing had changed, as if time had no power over love. Every day, she followed the same routine. She woke up at sunrise, walked slowly to the banks of the Yamuna river, and offered water with deep devotion. Then she returned to her small hut and waited. She waited not for hours, not for days, but for years, because she believed one thing: Krishna would come. The people around her did not know who she really was. To them, she was just a quiet spiritual woman, but they could see something different. They could feel that her entire life was centered around one name. Then one day, something changed. While standing near the river, Radha suddenly looked at the sky. The air became still. A strange silence filled the world. And in that moment, her heart felt something deep, something final. That evening, she sat near a small tulsi plant outside her hut. She folded her hands and spoke softly. "My time has come." But then she said something that no one expected. She said, "I will not leave this world like this. I will leave only when Krishna himself comes to me, stands before me, and calls my name with love." The people who heard this were shocked. They whispered amongst themselves, "How can a great king like Krishna come here for an old woman?" But still, no one doubted her, because her life itself was proof of a love that never changed. And far away, in the great city of Dwarka, Krishna sat in silence. He had everything: power, respect, a kingdom, but still something was missing. A quiet emptiness that nothing could fill. Then suddenly he felt it, a pull, a call, not from the world, but from the soul. He closed his eyes and heard it clearly. Radha was calling him. And in that moment, everything changed. In that moment, Krishna did not think. He did not wait. He did not question. He simply stood up and left everything behind. Because some calls are not heard by the ears, they are felt by the soul. Within a short time, he reached that quiet place near Vrindavan where someone had been waiting for him for years. Outside a small hut near a tulsi plant sat Radha, her eyes closed, her face calm, as if she already knew he had arrived. Krishna stopped for a moment. He looked at her, not as an old woman, but as the same Radha who had always lived in his heart. Time had changed everything, but not this love. Slowly, in a soft voice, he spoke just one word: Radhe. The moment this word touched her ears, Radha opened her eyes. And in that single moment, everything returned. The past, the memories, the sound of the flute, the silent bond, everything. A soft smile appeared on her face. It was not the smile of age, it was the smile of love. She looked at Krishna with peace, not surprise, as if she had always known he would come. In a gentle voice, she said, "You came." No questions, no complaints, only love. Krishna sat beside her and held her hand. That touch was not just physical, it was the meeting of two souls that were never truly apart. For a moment, neither of them spoke, because some feelings are beyond words. Then Radha spoke again. "My time has come. This body is tired, but my soul is at peace because you are here." Krishna looked at her, his eyes filled with tears, but his heart was calm, because he knew this was not an end. Her breath slowly became softer, slower, lighter. The world around them became silent, and holding Krishna's hand, with his name in her heart, Radha left her body. No pain, no fear, only peace. For a few moments, Krishna did not move. He simply sat there, holding her hand, feeling a presence that could not be seen but could never be lost. It felt like the end, but it was not. Because before leaving, Radha had said something that would change everything. She had said, "When love begins to disappear from this world, I will return. I will take birth again, because love is the meaning of life and it must never be lost." And with those words, a new mystery was born. After Radha left her body, something unusual happened. The place where she rested did not remain ordinary. Near the tulsi plant, a new plant began to grow. It looked different, brighter, almost divine. The villagers slowly started calling it the Radha tree, but no one knew what truth was hidden there. Time passed, years became centuries, and slowly the world began to change. The meaning of love started to fade. What was once pure became selfish. What was once deep became temporary. And in that moment, a promise began to awaken again. Not far from Barsana, in a small farmer's house, a baby girl was born. Her name was Lalita. She looked like a normal child, but she was not. As she grew, strange things began to happen. Without learning, she could play the flute, and not just play, but create a sound so deep that even nature seemed to listen. Trees became still, birds stopped moving, and people felt something they could not explain. The villagers were surprised. Some said, "She is not ordinary." Others whispered, "She reminds us of someone." When Lalita turned 7, one day she sat near the banks of the Yamuna river. At that same moment, a saint passed by. He looked at her and suddenly stopped. There was something in her eyes, something familiar, something ancient. In a soft voice he said, "These eyes, this smile, I have seen them before. Radha, you have returned." Lalita did not understand, but inside her something moved, a feeling, a memory, without words. From that day her dreams began. Every night she saw the same man, dark in color, calm in face, standing near the river, playing a flute. He never spoke, but his music touched her heart deeply. One day she asked her mother, "What is love?" Her mother smiled and said, "You are too young, you will understand later." Lalita became quiet, but her eyes showed something deeper, as if this was not the first time she had asked this question. And slowly that feeling inside her began to grow stronger. As Lalita grew older, the feeling inside her did not go away. It became stronger, deeper, impossible to ignore. It was no longer just dreams. It felt like a call. Every day she felt it more, a pull from somewhere far away, yet very close. She would sit alone, looking at the sky or listening to the wind as if she was trying to hear something hidden. Most of her time she spent near the banks of the Yamuna river, sitting quietly, doing nothing but feeling everything. Her flute became her only companion. Whenever she played, the sound was different. It was not just music, it carried emotion, longing, and something like a memory. People who heard it often felt tears without knowing why. One evening, as the sun was setting, Lalita played her flute again, but this time the sound was deeper, stronger, as if it was calling someone. And in that very moment, far away, someone heard it. That night, Lalita had a dream again, but this time it felt real. She saw herself near the river, and beside her stood a man, calm, peaceful, holding a flute. She could not see his face clearly, but she felt something, something familiar, something that felt like home. Slowly, she asked, "Will our story remain incomplete again?" For a moment, everything became still. Then the man smiled and said, "No, this time the world will see our love complete." Lalita suddenly woke up. Her heart was beating fast, her mind was confused, but one thing was clear. This was not just a dream. From that day, her restlessness grew. She started asking questions again and again. Who am I? Why do I feel this? Why does this music feel like mine? One day, she asked her mother again, "Can love exist without meeting, without speaking?" Her mother smiled and said, "True love does not need words. Sometimes it just exists." Those words stayed with her. And slowly, Lalita understood something. The feeling inside her was real, and somewhere, someone else was feeling the same. While Lalita was feeling this strange pull inside her heart, far away from Barsana, in the silent mountains of the Himalayas, someone else was also changing. There lived a young sage known as Anantanand. To people, he was calm, wise, and peaceful. He spoke about truth, about life, and about love. When he spoke, people listened. When he explained love, people felt it. He used to say, "Love is not the meeting of bodies, it is the connection of souls. Love is not taking, it is giving." And when people heard these words, many felt emotional. But after everyone left, when he was alone, there was silence inside him. Not peace, but emptiness. Something was missing. Every night he saw the same dream, a girl sitting near a river playing a flute. He could not see her clearly, but her presence felt familiar, very familiar. He never told anyone about this, but every time he heard that music, his heart became restless. One day, while sitting in deep meditation, something happened. He heard a sound, a faint flute, not from outside, but from within. His eyes opened slowly, a tear rolled down his face, but there was also a smile. In that moment, he understood something. This feeling was not new, it was very old, and somewhere, someone was calling him. Without thinking, he stood up. He looked at the mountains, at the life he had lived, and quietly he decided to leave. No announcement, no explanation, just a silent decision. At the same time, Lalita also stood at the edge of a decision. The feeling inside her had become too strong. She could not stay anymore. Two hearts in two different places had made the same choice. The journey had begun. Early in the morning, before the sun fully rose, Lalita stood quietly outside her home near Barsana. Everything was silent, but inside her there was movement. She looked at her home one last time, then folded her hands and stepped forward. Without telling anyone, without knowing where to go, only with one feeling, she had to find him. She began to walk through small villages, empty roads, and quiet forests. When people asked, "Where are you going?" she only said, "I am searching for someone." But who? Even she did not know how to explain. Whenever she felt tired, she stopped, closed her eyes, and played her flute. And every time, the sound carried the same message, a call. People stopped to listen. Some felt peace, some felt sadness, some felt something deep without understanding it. Days passed, then more days. The journey became harder. Long walks, little food, no rest. But still, she did not stop, because this journey was not from the body, it was from the soul. Far away, Anantanand was also walking, leaving the silent caves of the Himalayas, step by step, without direction, but with feeling. Sometimes he would suddenly stop, as if he heard something, a faint flute carried by the wind. He would close his eyes and listen, and each time that sound pulled him forward. Back on her path, Lalita began to feel something strange. Sometimes she felt very close, as if she was about to find him, and then suddenly that feeling disappeared. Hope, then doubt, again and again. One day, as she sat under a tree, tired and silent, an old woman came near her. She asked softly, "Why are you wandering like this?" Lalita replied, "I am searching for someone, but I don't know where to find him." The old woman smiled. "Then do not search with your eyes. Play your flute and call him from your heart. The one who belongs to you will come." Those words changed everything. That evening, Lalita climbed a small hill. The wind was strong, the sky was wide. She closed her eyes and played her flute. This time the sound was deeper than ever, filled with everything: hope, pain, longing, truth. And far away, Anantanand stopped. His heart began to beat faster. His eyes filled with tears. The distance was still there, but now the connection had become stronger. As Lalita continued her journey, the path did not become easier. It became more difficult. Because when something is true, it is always tested. She met many people on the way. Some were saints, some were travelers, and some only pretended to be wise. When she asked, "Are you the one I am searching for?" many said yes. For a moment, it felt like her search had ended. But then something inside her said no. It was not their words, it was not their face, it was the feeling. Her heart could recognize truth, and it refused to accept anything less. Sometimes she felt confused. One person spoke beautifully about love. Another looked calm and powerful. For a moment, she almost believed them. But then silence answered her, and she moved forward again, choosing truth over comfort. Far away, Anantanand had stopped moving. He had reached a lonely cave, and there he sat in deep meditation. He stopped eating, he stopped speaking, he closed himself from the world. Only one word remained, Radhe. Again and again he repeated it, not as a word, but as a feeling. His followers became worried. They said, "If this continues, you will not survive." He smiled softly and said, "My life is not in this body, it lives in her." And then silence again. Back on the road, Lalita's journey became harder. People laughed at her. Some said, "This is madness." Others tried to mislead her. But she did not stop, because her faith was stronger than the world. One day, a man appeared before her. His presence was strong, his voice calm, his words powerful. He looked at her and said, "The one you are searching for is me." For a moment, Lalita stopped. Something about him felt real. Her heart hesitated. But then she closed her eyes. She did not listen to his words, she listened to her soul. And then she said, "You are not the one." At that moment, his face changed. The calmness disappeared. The truth came out. He was not there to guide her, he was there to test her. But Lalita had passed. Because true love is not found outside, it is recognized from within. And somewhere, in the silence of that cave, Anantanand slowly opened his eyes, as if he knew she was close. Now the journey had reached its most difficult stage. It was no longer just a search, it had become a test of love, a test of faith, a test of the soul. At that moment, a powerful sage appeared. His name was Kurang Nath. He had been watching everything. He stepped forward and said, "This love cannot happen. This world will not accept it." His voice was strong. His presence was heavy. He looked at Lalita and then at Anantanand and said, "If your love is true, then prove it." And then he gave a condition. On the next full moon night, Lalita will tie a cloth over her eyes. She will not see, she will not hear, and still she must find Anantanand. If she fails, you will be separated again for ages. Silence filled the air. This was not a simple test, this was everything. Anantanand said nothing, but Lalita stepped forward. Her voice was calm. "I accept." The days passed slowly. The full moon night came closer. People began to talk. Some laughed, some doubted, some believed. But Lalita stayed quiet. When the night arrived, she stood still. Then slowly she tied a cloth over her eyes. Darkness, complete darkness. Now she could not see, she could not depend on the world. Only one thing remained, her heart. She began to walk, step by step, slowly, carefully. People watched her. Some made fun of her. Some said, "This is impossible." But she did not stop, because this was not about the world, this was about truth. At the same time, Anantanand sat deep inside a cave, in silence, in stillness. He had given one instruction to his followers: "Do not tell her where I am," because he also wanted to know, can love find its way without eyes, without sound, only through the soul? Back on the path, Lalita kept moving. She met many people. Some tried to help, some tried to confuse. One man even said, "I am Anantanand." For a moment she stopped, but then she smiled slightly and said, "You are not," because her heart knew. Again she walked forward, step by step, through darkness, through doubt, through silence. The night was passing. The test was not over yet. The night was almost over. The full moon was high in the sky. Time was running out. Lalita was still walking, her eyes covered, her steps slow, but her heart steady. She had nothing to guide her, no sight, no sound, only feeling. People around her had stopped talking now. Even they could feel this was not normal anymore. Step by step, she moved forward until suddenly she felt something. A presence. A calm energy. Something she had felt before, not with her eyes, but deep inside. She stopped. Her heart began to beat faster. Without seeing, without hearing, she slowly moved in that direction, and then she reached the entrance of a cave. Inside there was silence, deep, still, powerful silence. She walked in slowly, and then she felt it clearly. He was there. With trembling hands, she took her flute and gently placed it near his feet. Then in a soft voice she said, "I cannot see you, but my heart knows you are the one." For a moment nothing happened. Then suddenly a sound filled the cave, a flute. The same melody, the same feeling, the same call she had heard in her dreams again and again. Tears filled her eyes. That was the answer. Slowly, Anantanand stood up and removed the cloth from her eyes. Light returned, and in front of her he stood. She looked at him, and in that moment there was no doubt, no question, no confusion, only recognition, not of this life, but of something much older. With a soft smile he said, "Radhe," and she replied, without hesitation, "You are the one." Both of them stood there with tears in their eyes, not of sadness, but of completion. The journey, the pain, the waiting, everything had led to this moment, but still one final step remained. Even after finding each other, their journey was not fully complete, because now the world had to see it. The truth had to be accepted, not just felt. A voice rose among the people. If this love is real, then prove it before society. Soon both Lalita and Anantanand were called to the royal court. Kings, scholars, and people from all around gathered there. Everyone wanted to see what this love really was. The king looked at Anantanand and said, "You are a sage, a man of discipline, and yet you speak of love. Is this not against your path?" The court became silent. Anantanand stepped forward calmly. His voice was soft but strong. "I have not broken any rule. I have only accepted truth. Love is not desire. Love is not the body. Love is the connection of souls." People listened. Some were confused. Some were moved. Then Lalita stepped forward. Her eyes were clear, her voice steady. "I did not find him with my eyes. I found him with my heart. I walked in darkness and still I reached him, because true love does not need sight, it only needs truth." The court became even more silent. Then slowly the king spoke again. "When I was young, my mother told me the story of Radha and Krishna. I always wondered why their love remained incomplete." He paused and looked at both of them. "Today I understand. Marriage is a rule of society, but love belongs to the soul. And today I accept this love." In that moment, everything changed. The same love that was once separated by the world was now accepted by it. After ages, Radha and Krishna were complete again, not just in feeling, but in truth. And with that, the story reached its end. But the message remained. Love is not something you see, it is something you feel. And when it is true, even time, even life, even the world cannot stop it.